This is going to be a 3-part series in which I go into great detail what I believe an enlightened Luffy's appearance and capabilities to be. This particular video you're about to watch is my prediction for what the supernatural experience Luffy will encounter that will awaken and transcend his mind, body, and spirit. Please support the artist that provided us the illustrations to go along with the vision of my theory. Luffy is up against the strongest creature on Earth. Now look, I want Luffy to win, but the end doesn't justify the means when it comes to good writing. Despite how far Luffy has come in strength, it would be hard to believe that someone who is just learning all these abilities can beat someone who has decades of experience honing their techniques. If Luffy had a power-up from an outside force, then we can understand why he can beat Kaido. However, we don't want a fairy tale kind of asshole. But what if Luffy got a power-up that has been foreshadowed since the beginning of the Wano arc? That's what this theory will be about. To save Luffy from being accused of having plot armor, I believe Nightmare Luffy will make a reappearance in the story. Even still, that could leave a bad taste in someone's mouth. I know you can't please everyone, but consider this. What if the power-up not only helps him defeat Kaido, but is actually an enlightening experience that takes him to the next level? That way, it isn't just something to bail Luffy out of defeat, but lays down the foundation for Luffy's victories in the future that are accomplished by his own merit. I get that it could be bittersweet for Luffy to defeat Kaido with help, but also think about this. If Kaido is supposedly the strongest known character, then how will things be suspenseful in the future for Luffy? Will Kaido have to be downplayed for the sake of other characters to be seen as more powerful? Will it still be high stakes for him to go against other admirals, CP0, Yonko, or others besides someone like Imu? I doubt Luffy is going straight on to fight the final boss right after Kaido. So while on one hand Luffy loses some of the glory of beating Kaido solely with his own capabilities, on the other hand he can prove himself in the future with what he learns from the power used in the new Nightmare form. And who knows, maybe he'll even get a rematch. That's enough of the appetizer. Let's move on to the main dish. What could Luffy possibly learn from this hypothetical new power-up? Well, if you look at Nightmare Luffy compared to Gear 4th, it wouldn't be far-fetched to call Gear 4th the spiritual successor to his Nightmare form. It's easy for us to say this from the perspective of a reader of the fictional world that is One Piece. However, within the story itself, there isn't a connection made between Nightmare Luffy and Gear 4th. I think there will be a new iteration of Nightmare Luffy in Wano, and it will actually inspire the creation of Gear 5th within the story. So first, let me talk to you about what I believe Gear 5th could be in concept. Gear 2nd is Luffy pumping air through his blood to oxygenate it. Gear 3rd, he blows air into his bones, and Gear 4th, he blows air into his muscles. So by going along that trend, I speculate that Gear 5th will be Luffy incorporating the breath of all things around him into his body. If you're confused, that's okay, because I'm about to unpack all of that. First off, the term breath of all things should hopefully ring a bell. In Zoro's fight against Da's bones, he could sense the breath of all things around him. This was Zoro using Haki long before he and even us the readers knew what Haki was. I believe the breath Zoro sensed around him is not the breath in the physical or literal sense, but rather in the spiritual sense. Chi can translate to English as breath. Chi can also translate to Japanese as ki. The word ki is found in the word Haki. If you haven't already checked out my Understanding Haki series, I go over this concept and more. Much more. Before I get back on topic, have you watched Naruto? If you have, then I hope you're familiar with the concept of Sage Mode. An oversimplification of how this power works is that it allows the user to draw the energy around them into their body. By doing so, they not only gain power, but can manipulate the nature around them. For example, the sage known as Kabuto can cause the rocks around him to shapeshift and move the way he wants.
The Sage are inorganic animation jutsu, which is specific to only those who have mastered the Sage jutsu of the Råed Ch. And basically the way this works is that the user, Kabuto in this example, he breathes life into inorganic substances, such as the cave around them where he's fighting Sasuke and Itachi in this example. He gives the whole environment around him life that he can control by filling the atmosphere with natural energy. So once he has the environment around him controlled, he can then move it and manipulate it at will. Kind of a goddamn OP ability if you think about it.
That particular jutsu looks very similar to the way Devil Fruit Awakening works as well. If you're of the mind that Gear 5th would involve Devil Fruit Awakening, well then we're on the same page. I believe that Luffy learning how to use the breath, aka chi of his surroundings, and his Devil Fruit Awakening is interconnected. So you might be wondering, what is the new Nightmare Luffy and how would it inspire Luffy to make Gear 5th? Well, I'm sure you've seen plenty of theories about how the souls of the dead will play a role in Wano. It's for good reason since there's plenty of foreshadow. The first iteration of Nightmare Luffy was based on zombies. What if this time around he is based off ghosts? Instead of shadows entering Luffy's body, it is the souls of the dead that will help Luffy defeat Kaido. A good question would be, how is it possible for the souls to get to Luffy's body? And a bad answer for me is, well, I don't know. Maybe the souls make their way to Luffy all on their own. Maybe Big Mom puts the souls inside of Luffy. Perhaps Brook guides the souls to Luffy with the power of music. I wouldn't be surprised if the lanterns sent up into the sky by Wano citizens play a role. There was even the sacred tree that Big Mom destroyed earlier. I could say anything just as long as it is possible and sufficient enough for this theory. Whatever it may be, the end result is a new Nightmare Luffy. With all that said, I can properly present why the new Nightmare Luffy would inspire Gear 5th. The one word to best explain this is the word spirit. The experience of Luffy being empowered by the souls of the dead could result in Luffy being inspired to learn how to infuse the spirit of the natural world around him into his own soul and body. The word spirit is damn near synonymous with the word soul. In addition, the word spirit comes from the Latin word spiritus, which actually means breath. To clarify, this wouldn't mean that the new Nightmare Luffy is Gear 5th. They're two different things. The notable difference is that the Nightmare form would derive from ghosts, aka souls of the dead, meanwhile Gear 5th is coming from the spirit energy of the nature around him. I can't say too much on the appearance of Gear 5th because there might be multiple forms of varying designs. The original Nightmare Luffy seemed to grow in size based on how many shadows went into his body, and the same might end up being true for the new Nightmare form. He may even grow to be the same size as Kaido. In fact, we see that when Big Mom infuses soul power into her body, she grows in size. In addition, she gets fiery eyes, which is also something I anticipate for Luffy. Perhaps he grows so large he's big enough to even wield the huge sword of Onigashima. Even just growing to be as big as someone as Oden would be sufficient enough, especially if Luffy's body were to become the host of a samurai, or maybe multiple samurais.
月は夜明けを知らぬ君。かなわばその一年は、旗とせは編む月より、9つの影を落とし、 まばゆき夜明けを知る君となる
Gear 5th would be Luffy building upon his Haki mastery and Devil Fruit potential. On the contrary, Luffy's new Nightmare form would be about him borrowing powers from others. Similar to the old form, I can imagine this new Nightmare Luffy being able to use other people's fighting styles. We've seen Nightmare Luffy wield a sword before, and you should expect to see a whole lot more of him as a swordsman this time around. The souls of the dead that would aid Luffy in defeating Kaido would most likely be the warriors that regret not being able to have saved Wano before their lives ended. And vast majority of those are sword-wielding samurais. Now, I'm not saying every single dead Wano citizen will come back. I doubt Ryuma would be one of those souls because he wasn't alive when Kaido took over Wano. The souls had to have some kind of attachment to Kaido from the time that they were alive. Thus, I would mainly expect to see the last daimyos and maybe even the previous shogun show off their ability in Luffy's body. The character who would most want a second chance at fighting Kaido would be Oden. All we need is for Luffy to get his hands on a sword. But it can't just be any sword. It could be Momonosuke's sword, the Ame no Habikiri, or maybe Luffy uses the Nidai Kitsetsu once again. Perhaps he'll use both at the same time and perform Oden two-sword style, while doing an oversoul with Oden and his red scabbards. That's a Shaman-kin reference. It's a good anime you can find on Netflix. It's about shamans that can do what's known as spirit integrate, which is basically the shamans voluntarily being possessed by a ghost in order to use the dead soul's abilities.
That's the ghost of a samurai!
I am grateful. You have given me a rare opportunity to redeem the past disgrace put on my name.
Interestingly enough, the soul of the ghost takes the form of fire before entering the shaman's body. I bring this up because I do suspect the new Nightmare Luffy will have a big association with fire. The first Nightmare Luffy didn't have an elemental theme, but it was based off of zombies, which happened to be animated corpses. Cold, dead bodies. Which is why Luffy's skin turns blue. On the contrary, new Nightmare Luffy will be filled with the passions from the warrior souls of Wano. A body devoid of a soul is essentially dead, but a body filled with more souls would be more alive than ever. Luffy's blood will boil so hot that he will have red hot skin, like Gear 2nd, but to an even more noticeable degree. And do you remember who trained Luffy in this arc? The same guy who just so happens to have hair made of fire. In fact, Hirogoro also said that Luffy resembles a Wisdom King, and Wisdom Kings are often depicted as having a sash made of fire around them, similar to Kaido in his dragon form. Better yet, in one of the most recent anime episodes, Hirogoro calls him a god of fire. Let's even give consideration to how the animals in Wano are designed. Notice the consistent flame theme? With all that being said, it shouldn't be too surprising to see the souls of Wano citizens giving Luffy a fire form. The most damning evidence would be that the upcoming celebration of the departed souls in Wano is called the Fire Festival. Earlier I said the warriors that failed to rescue Wano could show up and lend the power of their soul to Luffy. Vast majority of them are samurais from Wano. However, there's one gaijin that promised to defeat Kaido and save Wano. But unfortunately his life came to an end before he could even attempt to make good on his promise. Could we possibly see Luffy and Fire Fist Ace reunite again? Not just figuratively, but literally meet each other again in spirit. If you've been following my channel, then you know I have a lot to say about Luffy and him having a sun-based form in Wano. Notice that I made this theory months before Sun God Nika was introduced. Luffy having a fire form is a topic previously discussed. I want to talk about that and more, and I will, but I want to wrap up this theory before I get too off the rails. If there's anything you would like me to clear up with this theory, please let me know. That's the end of this theory, but please stop by next week to see me go in more depth how I believe Gear 5th will be in terms of appearance and power. That's it for Food for Thought. I made it short and sweet, but if you'd like to hear me elaborate more, then stick around for the secret ending. Would like Food for Thought? Then check out the rest of my channel. Want to see some actually well thought out analysis and theories with a bunch of evidence to back them up? Well then check out my series Deep Dive. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that theory. It came from a topic discussed in a live stream I hosted alongside Sean the Blunt God. If you have anything you'd like to discuss on the platform, please reach out to me. With this secret ending, we'll talk about things to expect in next week's video, starting with the name scheme. The name scheme of Gear 4th is clear. Bound Man, Tank Man, and Snake Man all have the word man in it. So if Gear 5th is an elevated form, he might level up to the status of God. So for example, we might see Gear 5th Sanugado. I'll go over that in more potential forms next week. I have more videos planned, but the most important one I'm working on is the 4th and final installment in my Understanding Haki series. If you haven't already seen this series, I hope you will in the future. It is my best work. The point of the series is that I attempt to unlock the mysteries behind the full potential of Haki and the origins of devil fruits. It's a lot to cover, but I take my time and I break it down into chapters for you to understand. The first video breaks down what Chi is and how it is the root of Haki. The next video I explain that Chi and Haki are vibrational energies and that it will take different forms based on the frequencies of vibration. The colors of Haki can be represented as the 7 chakras. The first 3 of the 7 are what I believe is associated with the 3 forms of armament. This will be relevant for next week's video. I hope you watched a full video, but if not, here are clips to give you the gist of it. Chi is vibrating in constant energetic motion within all things. You can take a source of energy, aka Chi, and vibrate it at different levels of constant speed, which will produce a range of different effects. Chi has known levels of frequency. However, I'm more inclined to think of it in terms of prana because I'm more familiar with that. I feel justified in doing so for 2 reasons. First, prana means breath, just like spirit and Chi. It's the same thing under a different name, which leads me to my next point. Secondly, Haki goes under another name, which is known as mantra, a term that comes from the Hindu religion, which uses prana. In that system, the levels of frequencies would be known as chakra. Energy is everywhere, and in everything, there is energy. We have centers in our body that are conductors for this energy. These energy centers are called chakras. Through these chakras, we take in and send out energetic vibrations on many different levels, such as body, mind, heart, and soul. Each chakra has a different color associating with it, and each color has a different vibration. Now what we're going to do is figure out which type of Haki is associated with which frequency. The first 3, which are root, sacral, and solar plexus, are associated with the physical. That should give you a hint of which type of Haki this would be. The root chakra is associated with the element of earth, so of course the Haki that involves hardening is the one you should look towards. By mastering this chakra, one can freely control their body movement and even shape. This is the reason I believe Luffy doesn't enter Gear 4th without armament Haki. At the price of inflating his muscle, he loses control of his body and bounces around. After root, the next level is sacral chakra. This one is water and is centered in the reproductive organs. It's an energy meant for connecting bodies together, if you catch my drift. In a way, you can say this is the same for armament Haki. In battle, you can use armament Haki to connect to your opponent, bypassing even the defenses of an intangible Logia user. Water is a devil fruit user's weakness after all. I'd like to point out that the second level of Haki would be associated with water, and Fishman Karate is also a fighting style, both associated with water and focuses on attacking the interior of a being. Perhaps there's more to this. Anyway, back on topic. Anyway, moving on, or should I say moving up. Solar plexus, associated with fire, and it is the center for your willpower. Only the strongest of warriors with the most guts can master this level of armament Haki. Well, you've seen Luffy and Big Mom show off fire patterns in their armament. Luffy does this when he enters Gear 4th, which is his current highest form of armament Haki. And Big Mom is a Yonko, so it'd be no surprise if she had the 3rd form of armament Haki. Perhaps we have seen the highest form of armament Haki this whole time and haven't realized it. Perhaps some characters in the story have been using it this whole time and they didn't even realize they were using the 3rd form of armament Haki. Let's talk about Diable Jamba and Red Hawk. When we are introduced to these type of attacks through Sanji, he claimed that he was capable of igniting his leg due to speed and friction. It makes sense, besides the fact that his pants, shoe, and leg should be burning off, but I'll let that slide just for the sake of maintaining his appearance. However, the laws of physics can't be claimed after the time skip, in which he doesn't even spin anymore. He simply spontaneously erupts. Memories are apparently the cause. If that doesn't scream supernatural, I don't know what does. Luffy is not only using the 3rd level of armor Haki with Red Hawk, but the 2nd as well. Basically, he is using all 3 in one attack. And of course, I'll explain myself. So, he coats his arm in Haki, which is the root chakra, aka Earth. Next, he sets his arm ablaze with the solar plexus, aka Fire. It's when the attack hits that you can really see the sacral chakra, aka Water, take effect. When Luffy freed Hyogoro from his collar, the old man tells Luffy that he already knows the 2nd level, which is what I'm saying. But more importantly, he mentions another thing that I said earlier. The 2nd level Haki attacks the inside and then out. Now when Luffy lands Red Hawk on somebody, it isn't simply just a flaming fist hitting a body. You can see the fire blast flying out the other side of whoever it hits. When he punched Hold'em's cheek, you can see fire flying out of his mouth. He hits the front and the blast comes out the back, just like what he did to that tree. Now any reasonable person would wonder, what is it that allows Luffy to unconsciously raise his vibrations to a level past which he knows how to do consciously? I believe it is similar to how Sanji uses DJ post time skip. The death of Ace was extremely traumatic for Luffy. His memory of his dear late brother triggers something within him that creates a spark in his spirit. Now what I believe is occurring to actually create the flames of Red Hawk and Diablo Jamba is that Luffy and Sanji's Haki is vibrating at a frequency that will result in their aura turning into flames. Because ultimately, that's what really matters most when Sanji activates Diablo Jamba. Sure, maybe the first time he used the attack, it required he spin at a speed which he could catch on fire. But what really matters most is the effect, not the cause. What Sanji needs is to generate enough kinetic energy in his leg that it will cause whatever vibrating subatomic particles, atoms, or molecules that are in and around his leg to vibrate at a frequency to catch on fire. Besides the fact that solar plexus is associated with fire, it also makes sense that the highest chakra level that focuses on the physical body would be the one that causes flames. The higher the chakra, the higher the frequency. The higher the frequency, the faster the Haki will vibrate. Heat is synonymous with how fast atoms vibrate. As I already pointed out, Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro and Big Mom have all displayed fire abilities. And there are more. Kinemon, Katakuri, Hold'em, Hyogoro, King, and Kaido have all displayed some kind of fire aura or technique. If there are more you can think of, definitely let me know.